I said we're live. Say something.
Oh, you also unmuted me. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lore Lords episode 38. Gosh, you'd think I would have learned by now, but I haven't. Anyway, tonight we're talking about the Amityville horror, and it's going to be great. I'm Pat Weston, and I'm joined
I'm Atlas.
Yeah, that guy.
We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We've only done it 38 times. It's okay.
God.
We're new to this kind of thing. Don't worry about it.
This is the sloppiest start I've ever had. Jesus Christ.
But don't worry. When you edit it up, all that stuff will be taken care of. So it'll start with you saying hello, and then people who weren't here for the live part can feel like they missed out. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're doing a spooky-ish kind of, not really, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
We will be. I want to give a warning at the start of this one too, because we're going to be describing some incidents that happened that involve some graphic detail. So if that's something that bothers you, maybe don't listen at the beginning. At least it'll stop after the beginning, though. It's just the beginning part.
Maybe just put on some big boy pants and stop whining to your mommies and sit tight. Enjoy.
Yeah. So I think we should. What do you know about Amityville and the Amityville horror?
Nothing. My mom and my sister were obsessed with this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
You never saw it?
And I don't like horror movies. I'm a big chicken. I'm a chicken boy. I'm getting into that more. I'm realizing that I kind of like, I think because I'm dead inside now, like I'm like, oh, horror is fine because I want to die. I'm just kidding. Jesus Christ. But like, no,
I live for it now.
I live for it now. I just want to kill me. No, but I do actually like, I'm enjoying horror more and more. When we played Devour the first time, I genuinely thought I was going to fucking hate it the whole time because I was like, no, this is scary. This is like really scary. But I ended up, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a fun time. So, but like I've seen horror movies. I like horror stuff, but I don't know about this.
Right. So you don't know Amityville. Okay.
No.
So did you know it's based on a true story?
No.
Okay. So Amityville is based on a true story. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it then.
Great.
Now that you know nothing, we're going to start off
Yes.
with the Amityville horror with a little bit of an intro. One cold fall night in Long Island, New York, on November 13th, 1974. Robert DeFeo Jr. would start the path down a legendary horror event known to most as the Amityville Horror. On that day, DeFeo Jr. would leave work and go to the bar as he usually did. That day, he would make multiple calls home from the bar to try to contact his family at home. But as he reportedly said, no one would answer. He made this pretty well known to all around him at the bar that no one at home was answering his phone calls. Next time he was seen was when he returned to the bar at 6:30 a.m. and he walked in and yelled, quote, "You gotta help me. I think my mother and father are shot."
Oh.
So, after that event, DeFeo Jr. with a group of bar patrons would go to his home, and sure enough, his mother and father were shot dead, along with his 4 siblings.
Oh, God. Jesus.
They were found with gunshots to the back of their heads, and they were all laying on their stomachs in their beds.
That's sad. That's so sad.
In the middle of that night, Ronald DeFeo Jr. would return home from the bar before he showed back up at 6:30 in the morning. He would leave probably sometime around 2 a.m. and he would get home that night, go find his .35 caliber rifle, kill his parents, Louise and Ronald DeFeo Sr., and his 4 siblings, 18-year-old Don, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old Matthew. This took place at 112 Ocean Avenue, Long Island, New York, in the suburb known as Amityville.
Oh.
This Dutch colonial house would go down in history and become now what is a popular tourist attraction for horror enthusiasts around the world. There's a slew of books, television shows, movies about this house and what happened inside of it. DeFeo Jr. claimed that voices in his head were the reason, telling him to kill his family. Many stories claim that the house itself claimed the family as victims due to the malevolent spirits or demons living inside its walls. But now, it's time for us to look into this event and see what we know about Robert DeFeo Jr. and see what we actually think about demons living inside the walls.
Okay, this sounds. I did not expect demon walls today. So okay, let's go. I'll be honest.
Yeah, so allegedly the house is
Yeah.
like killing them. I don't know.
Big time
So
possessed or something.
yeah, that's what people kind of. A lot of people think that the walls of the house are filled with demon. Not literally, of course. You know what I mean? It's just like saying the house is possessed, it's full of evil spirits, whatever.
Yeah.
So DeFeo Jr. Was the victim of being the oldest child in a family with an abusive father and a passive mother who would just mostly ignore him, but fully ignore the abuse and just pretend it wasn't happening. This led to DeFeo Jr. becoming a heavy drinker who could hardly hold down a job. He was allowed to stay at his family's house and he was even given a weekly stipend by his parents due to his inability to have a steady income, in hopes it would calm down his behavior.
Well, that's good.
As a child, he was troublesome, and when he got older, he became known for abusing substances, including regular use of heroin and LSD.
Woo! All right, he's going for it.
Now, I don't know what regular use of LSD does to you.
Know.
And I don't have firsthand experience of either of these.
I have no desire. I'm good.
But from my knowledge, you kind of just don't. You're not supposed to be doing LSD that much.
Yeah,
you know, like you're just supposed to kind of like do it a little bit,
like at a rave or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't just constantly do LSD. You're not supposed to regularly use it, so that could explain some voices in your head, in my opinion.
Right.
So yeah, he regulated heroin and LSD. He was known for lashing out at his father, one time physically, and one time threatening to kill him with a gun.
Well, his dad was a psychopath too, so I don't know. I could see how this would boil over.
Well, I don't know about psychopath, but abusive father, for sure.
Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm like, yeah, beating your kids is a crazy thing to do.
No, absolutely, but like, you know, back then, especially in the 70s, it was a bit more. And we don't know what beatings actually were. Yeah. Was it was it a belt whipping? Was it a smack? Like, we don't know. We just don't know. He just claims he was abused by his father.
That's fair.
Which is other witnesses claim he, like I just said, he lashed out at him, and one time he physically did even attack him.
Right.
So it is likely that could be very well be the case. So maybe he was just, you know, maybe he was whipped, maybe he was beaten, maybe he was bruised, maybe he was yelled at. I don't know, but he did threaten to kill him with a gun. Yeah. That's a pretty. So the story of being possessed by a demon is already at this point starting to unravel a little bit.
Right.
On that night of the murders, the bodies found seemed like they were in bed, like they were killed in bed. But upon further investigation, it showed that they very well may have been placed there upon their deaths. They were shot at 3:15 a.m. However, there was no reports of gunshots by neighbors that night, only the DeFeo dogs barking. Even though he wasn't quite a suspect yet, DeFeo Jr. did willingly go with the police into custody for his own safety that morning. Soon after, however, it seemed very clear to the police that it was not all well with DeFeo Jr. He would change his alibi a total of 9 times.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
While being questioned. First, he claimed he was at the bar, but then very soon people were like, no, he wasn't here all night. Like, he left at like 2 a.m. Like, the bartender and patrons both were able to say he was not there.
Right.
Soon others questioned. Yes, like I just said. Soon other patrons were questioned, clearly determining that was not the case. He was not there all night. Another story he told, which is kind of thought by some people to be a possible truth of the matter, is that his sister Dawn, the 18-year-old, was actually involved in the whole situation.
Oh shit!
And there is some evidence pointing to this theory, specifically the time at which the way the body seemed to be moved, almost like it was done by 2 people.
Oh wow!
And the theory is that Dawn wanted to move out as soon as she turned 18, but her parents were preventing her from doing so. And she organized the event with her brother Ronald to kill their parents. But while it was happening, DeFeo Jr. Killed the parents, and she went and killed the other 3 kids, which was not part of the plan. And DeFeo Jr. got upset that she killed the kids and killed her.
Jesus Christ!
So yeah, we don't know the truth of the matter for that, unfortunately, but that seems to be kind of the case.
That's just a lot of. That's crazy. That's a lot of crazy shit.
Yeah, either one. So there's another claim, of course. Again, 9 alibis. I don't have all 9 of them, but the other one that he went to a lot was he would claim his family was killed by a mob hitman named Louis Fellini.
Okay.
And he would say in the same time, DeFeo Jr. was forced to watch him kill the whole family. And the reason for this claim is that his grandfather was a member of the mob. And the only reason he was letting DeFeo Jr. take the fall and go to prison was because he had an incestuous relationship with his sister, Dawn.
Come on, man.
And that
why does that always have to play in there?
Yeah, they're always, stepsister, not stepsister, actual real sister.
Help.
Unfortunately.
Stepsister, I'm stuck.
But yeah, because of that fact, that there was like an incestuous relationship, his, the grandfather didn't want to tarnish his reputation and let him out of prison. So he just kind of kept him locked up, basically.
Right.
Didn't help him in any way. DeFeo Jr. would cling to the mob story for longer than all the others, but he would stick to it and saying his grandfather was involved, yada yada, everything we just kind of said. But soon enough, the investigators broke him down and he confessed to what happened that night, saying he gunned down his own family and stood trial on October 14th, 1975. He had an attorney named William Weber, who tried to get him a reduced sentence with an insanity plea, claiming he heard voices in his head telling him to kill his family. The prosecution argued that with his history of drug use, he was fully aware of what he was doing, and the trial ended with DeFeo Jr. getting 6 concurrent sentences to 25 years to life for second-degree murder of his 6 family members.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Bye, dude.
Yeah, he was locked up. DeFeo, he actually passed away in 2019, I believe.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, he just passed away. A lot of the articles that I was using for research in this episode, he was still alive.
That's funny.
So they had, a lot of talk, oh, he's in prison now, so I looked it up. He's not. He's dead now. But during the time of this, he was.
That's pretty crazy. I, for some reason, just assumed it was a while ago, early 1900s.
No, I said earlier, this is 1973
that
this happened.
Right.
Yeah, man. 1974. So.
Great.
Yeah, it happened. So, after that, he remained in prison for the rest of his life. Oh, 2021. Oh, okay. I just had to read one more sentence. He remained in prison for the rest of his life, passing away in March of 2021. So he just passed away a year ago.
Oh, shit.
Now that we pretty much unraveled this whole story of demons in his head, it literally was an insanity plea.
Right.
That's the bottom line of it. If you know about the AmittyVille horror, if listening to this, you know that this isn't even part of the story. This is not the AmittyVille horror. The AmittyVille horror is what happens after this murder.
Oh, okay.
This isn't, in a sense, just a prequel to the AmittyVille horror, because the hauntings of the house at 1112 Ocean Avenue wasn't happening yet, and it wasn't until the winter of 1975 where the story begins.
This is what that Yellow Card song's actually about.
Yellow Card song?
Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a great song. I'll send it to you later.
Okay, and I'll be able to... Now you'll understand it so well.
Exactly.
So, George and Kathy Lutz, with her 3 children, his stepchildren, would move into the house at 112 Ocean Avenue in December of 1975, believing their purchase of the 4,000 square foot house for only $80,000 was a steal. They were told that the value was lower due to the murders that happened here, but paid it no mind and went along with the deal. Little did they know they were in for a wild ride and would end up moving out of the house only 28 days after moving in, fleeing the terrifying incidents that would occur in their home. These stories were so intense that writer Jay Anson would find out about it and notice the attention and rumors it was getting around New York, and ended up interviewing the Lutzes and writing his famous book, The Amityville Horror.
Neat.
The book would become a bestseller, have a film based off of it only a couple years later, and make it as famous as it is today, and is widely considered to be a horror movie classic, and got a remake in 2005.
Oh, huh.
So Anson didn't just write the book off of stories he heard around town. He would intensely interview the Lutzes on their experience and end up with 45 hours of interviews.
Holy shit.
That he would use. Yeah, that's a lot of
a lot
of interviews. He would use these as the basis for his book. But what did the Lutzes actually experience in the house that made them run away after 28 days? Let's get into that. Because this is
the meat and potatoes, kids.
this is one of the most absurd things over here in your life. Okay, so immediately upon moving in, George and Kathy Lutz had a priest come bless their house. And now, just to clarify, a blessing is not an exorcism.
Right.
Some places I looked at would mention that, the house was exorcised. No, it was not exorcised. It was blessed by a priest. And at the time, nothing weird happened. Because this was kind of like day 1 or 2 of moving in.
Right.
And they got the priest to come bless the house. And all was well until the priest entered the sewing room. And he felt an invisible force slap him.
Oh, my.
And then he heard a voice say, "Get out."
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he told this to the family and then also warned them never to sleep in that room of the house.
I like it how he tells them, it's like, I just got slapped in the face by a demon and told to leave, but you should still live here.
Yeah, this house is fine. Just don't sleep in here.
Yeah.
After this is when things got weird. Many events would happen to Lutzes in their stay in this home beginning the next day. There were glowing eyes staring at them from outside the windows. Sometimes it would focus on Kathy's daughter, Missy, and they would report even seeing a creature in their home staring at them looking like a pig demon.
Oh, wow. That's horrifying.
And they also would see it show up on their second-story landing, like outside the window, staring at the daughter through her bedroom window.
Yeah, time to move for sure. Yeah.
No, 100%. If this happens, this is when you're out. Right. You know, second you see a pig demon in your home, you leave your home.
Like,
that's not your home anymore. It's
yeah.
the pig demon's home.
Yeah, and it'll always be the pig demon's home.
Yeah, this is not your home anymore. There's no sharing it. This is pig demon's home. Let's leave. And what even worse is to that is she would start to speak to the demon and name it Jody, and she would act like it was her invisible friend. So she was always talking to Jody, her little pig friend. That was a demon.
That's a little crazy, but okay.
Yeah. The front door would open and slam shut at odd hours with no one coming or going. Sometimes it would just swing open and stay that way. Like it would just stay open in the middle of the night, or they'd wake up and find the door just open.
That sucks.
Yeah, especially because it was winter. This was just one factor.
I was just
allegedly.
thinking like just letting all the animals in.
Oh, like pigs?
Hey.
So the house would be very cold day and night, partly because, the door was open. And they would have to often keep a fire burning. Sometimes they even kept the fire burning like multiple days at a time to try to get the house warm, but it would just stay cold.
Right. Oh, wow.
At night, George would wake up at 3:15 every single morning, the exact time of the murders. He would say that he would feel an unseen presence holding him down so he couldn't move. As he heard upstairs, his children's bed were getting lifted up and slammed down on the floor.
Holy shit. Okay. This is really like the full spectrum of haunting stuff. Things moving, things banging around, voices.
Oh, you think that's bad?
Oh, we just tip of the iceberg, baby.
The family would often smell rotten odors coming from all directions, as well as flies appearing around them. And maybe my favorite detail of this whole fucking thing, green goo would ooze from the cracks of the walls and floor.
Dude, I got it on my bingo card. One more.
Yeah. All right, one more. Okay, what about this? Outside, they would see demonic hoof prints in the snow.
I didn't have demonic hoof prints, but that's pretty amazing.
Okay, here's another one, and maybe the best one to top it all off. George Lutz would tell stories of seeing his own wife, Kathy, physically shift into an old woman with the face and hair and wrinkles of a woman who was 90 years old.
Bingo, baby. We got it.
Got it. Yeah, I had a feeling that was on there.
That was it.
Definitely
it was
a
long
shape-shifting
one.
wife.
Yeah.
Wife shape-shifting into an old woman. Check. Got it. So, this is pretty bad. Almost, I would say, unbelievably bad. Almost as if everything paranormal was happening all at once.
Maybe we were just in an intense alternate dimension moment, man, where, like, we were parallel realities with something else that was going on. Okay, that's
Maybe.
that's as good as it's gonna get from that.
It's good to see you being an Amityville defender. So after 28 days, again, the Lutzes would finally move out after one long final night, which events they would never go into detail about. After this is when the author Jay Anson would get involved and begin interviewing the Lutzes, and the house became known for its hauntings. Now let's go to the future of this house for a little bit, because they moved out, right? 1975 winter. They only lived for 1 month, so I don't know if they moved out technically in 76 or it was still December 75. I don't know.
Right.
But despite the reputation, it would sell again in 1977 to a James and Barbara Comerty, who changed the address from 112 Ocean Avenue to 108 Ocean Avenue, hoping to get rid of stalkers who would show up day and night trying to see demons and pig demons and stuff like that. And they want to retain the value of the house and not have people swarming around it all the time.
God bless Americans and their unending curiosity that they will go sit outside a stranger's house. This was the same story with like Indrid Cold and that guy who had like who met with him. People would just like go to his house. It's like they just want to see it. Like, God bless America.
So the James and Barbara Comerty owned it for the next 10 years, reporting absolutely nothing happening in this house.
Oh, wow, okay.
They would sell it in 1987 to a Peter and Jean O'Neill, who would also experience nothing happening for yet another decade, before selling it to Brian Wilson, not the Beach Boys singer. I want to make that clear. Just a different Brian Wilson, who would own it until 2017, where it would be sold to its current owners, who still reside there today. But before it was sold to the Comerty's family in 77, so back in 76, there was some investigations done in the house.
Oh?
This is February of 1976, 2 months after the Lutz's experience. A reporter named Laura Didio, D-I-D-I-O. I don't know how Didio.
And Didio was his name. Oh, sorry. Oh, good.
I don't know. She was a reporter, I guess, pretty a well-known one. She assembled a crack team of psychic researchers to evaluate the family's claims and spend a night in the infamous house. They spent a whole night walking room to room, trying to pick up ghostly vibrations and other phenomena that they might consider paranormal. Didio famously is quoted saying, quote, "It was like a psychic slumber party," end quote. And that is the name that this event is known to this day. People always refer to this kind of that night as the psychic slumber party. And
that's a
throughout
cool
the night,
name, though.
it's a good the psychic slumber party event. We'll mention it a couple more times in this episode, but this event they would only capture one thing. When they would take time-lapse photos of the upstairs landing, and none of the photos but one would show anything interesting.
Okay.
One photo, which if you look up the Amityville house ghost photo, you'll find it. It's very popular.
All right, we'll do that right now.
And this photo shows what is described as, quote, "the face of a little boy peering out of one of the bedrooms," unquote. This is a quote from the reporter Didio as well. To top it off, one of the researchers there claimed to remember, quote, "overwhelming feelings of horrible depression," end quote.
You're saying the ghost boy is the ghost boy picture?
Yes, the boy it looks like it's just like a person looking at a door frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So the person who said overwhelming feelings of horrible depression in the house was none other than Lorraine Warren, which brings us to part 2 of this episode, which is the Warrens. Now, a lot of people probably know who the Warrens is. I'm assuming you don't know who the Warrens are because you don't watch horror things.
No.
So I want to do a whole episode on the Warrens, actually, but I decided to just do it as a part of this one. Try to give Amityville a bit more meat. So the Warrens in the 2000 documentary titled Amityville Horror or Hoax. That was the name of the documentary. I believe it was on ABC. Lorraine and Ed Warren are both featured in this, where Ed Warren states on a scale from 1 to 10 of haunted houses, the Dutch colonial home at 108 Ocean Avenue is a 10. But who are the Warrens, and why does their opinion matter? So let's talk about that for a minute. A lot of people listening to this might know who the Warrens are immediately. When I've talked about this episode before to people in real life, and I was talking to you about what I was working on,
right?
They knew who the Warrens were, and they said, "Oh, really, the Warrens?" And I went, "Yes," but they didn't know what I know about the Warrens, which is what we're going to go into now.
Great.
Edward and Lorraine Warren were American paranormal investigators, the most famous paranormal investigators in the world, most likely, to a point where many people today actually think they are fictional.
Oh, okay.
Ed was born on September 7th, 1926, and Lorraine was born on January 31st, 1927. Ed actually would pass away in 2006 to heart disease, and Lorraine passed away of old age in 2019.
Oh, damn.
Ed was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author, and lecturer. Self-taught and self-professed are the major things to remember there.
Yeah.
Lorraine was a self-professed clairvoyant. There's that self-professed word again. And a light trance medium who worked side by side with her husband on investigating all over, many of which are now famous, which we're going to go down the list right now.
So they're crazy people.
Yes, they are. 1952, the Warrens would found the New England Society for Psychic Research, known as NESPR. This is the oldest paranormal group for ghost hunting and research in New England. They claim to have investigated over 10,000 cases during their career. Stories of their investigations have been adapted as books, television shows, and movies, including the first one we're going to cover in chronological order, 1968, where they famously investigated a Raggedy Ann doll known as Annabelle.
Oh, okay.
And even owned the doll itself, which today is housed in the Warrens Occult Museum still. This doll would, of course, become famous for this being the subject of the 2014 film Annabelle.
No way.
1971, the Warrens claimed the house of the Perrin family in Harrisville, Rhode Island was haunted by a witch who had lived there in the early 19th century. This story would become the subject for the 2013 film in The Conjuring, and have Lorraine Warren on set as a consultant for the production of that film.
No shit.
And she would even make a cameo in the film herself.
That's pretty fun.
In 1976, as we mentioned, of course, they would both take part in the Psychic Slumber Party event in Amityville. The Warrens' version of events of what happened here would also be portrayed in the opening of The Conjuring 2.
Huh. There you go.
1977, the Warrens investigated a North London suburb of Enfield in a home where a large amount of poltergeist activity was present. The Warrens were convinced that it was a demonic possession of the house or the children in the house. However, many witnesses simply said these children were acting up and wanting attention.
Yeah, that is a kid thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess I looked a little bit more into this, so I didn't write it down. The witnesses, like the neighbors of that house, said that when the parents weren't around, the kids were just perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with them.
Oh.
Like they were quiet all day. Like, besides little kids like fighting with each other, like that kind of thing. But yeah, they weren't like crazy. It was just when the parents were ignoring them. So it's very obvious what it actually was.
Yeah, it's parents ignoring.
But no, Pat, no. The Warrens said it's possessed by demons.
Yes, of course.
And this whole plot of the house in Enfield, if it sounds familiar to listeners, is because that is The Conjuring 2. And in that movie, we even see the Warrens for a brief moment as they knock on the house's door and get turned away by the owners of the house.
Ha ha ha.
In 1981, Ed and Lorraine Warren would be sent out to Connecticut to deal with a demonic possession of a younger brother of a man named Arn Cheyenne Johnson. It was the younger brother of Arn Cheyenne Johnson's fiance was getting possessed by a demon.
I like it how it's
so they fit.
They get on dispatch. They're like, all right, you ready, babe? Let's suit up and get ready to go.
That's not even a joke. That is how they functioned. They get like calls, like, we need the Warrens. I just imagine like a theme song playing as they get in their pentagrams flashing.
Yeah.
Little 70s intro of him holding up a cross, and then it says like Ed Warren underneath it.
And it shows him doing his expertise. What was he an expert in again?
A self-proclaimed, where I write it, demonologist.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Author and lecturer.
It just shows him with a lot of books. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, anyway.
He's sitting in a chair reading a book and looks up at the camera. Perfect.
Takes a
second. And there's a demon behind him, of course. So after their investigation, they did claim the boy, of course, was possessed.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So there's a demon boy. But then after that, Johnson, Orange Cheyenne Johnson, the fiancé of the kid's
Yeah.
mom, I don't know, brother, sister. Johnson would go on to murder his landlord, Alan Bono.
Oh no.
The Warrens claimed he was possessed by the same demon. And at trial, Johnson tried to use this to plead not guilty by reason of demonic possession. But fortunately, he was unsuccessful. This story is called The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. If it sounded familiar to you, that's a movie about this.
The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah. And there's also a book titled The Devil in Connecticut from 1983, which is the same story as well. And they've now relabeled it to be called The Conjuring, The Devil in Connecticut on the book.
Oh,
to be part of that.
Wow.
So, there you go. More Conjuring stuff. 1997, there was an interview done by the Connecticut Post. A Stephen Novella and a Perry DeAngelis, two paranormal investigators and professional skeptics, would investigate the Warrens for the New England Skeptic Society, or NES. They said the Warrens were a very nice elderly couple, but were not only tales of meaningless ghost stories, but potentially dangerous frauds.
Yeah, that sounds about right. They don't sound...
Yes, it does.
Trustworthy
100%.
at all to me.
So now we're going to go into the actual, what I think about the Warrens, too, with going into this investigation that happened. A lot of people just think that they're, just very psychically powerful, investigators. Everything they touched was so dark. Let's look about what they actually were.
Okay.
Because these two people, Novella and DeAngelis, would look into them. And they went and looked into the Warrens themselves, as well as their occult museum, which is fairly famous in the area of Connecticut. They took the $13 tour of the museum to take a look at all their evidence, quote-unquote, for spirits and ghosts. And they concluded with a famous quote, "It's Blarney."
Okay.
They found many inconsistent claims and errors with flash photography, as well as just old technology being, having mistakes, like spots on cameras and being that claimed as being a ghost.
Yeah.
And they would not describe any of their artifacts as evil, and did not feel anything around the presence of supposedly haunted objects such as Annabelle. They stated that they did not only did the Warrens have a ton of stories, but they were just not good at conducting any kind of scientific research or investigation. They said, the quote is, they already have a predetermined conclusion that they adhere to, literally and religiously. And they posted that. That was their article that they said. So the Lorraine Warren didn't want to just take that. And so she responded, quote, "They don't base anything on a god," end quote. Which I think pretty much says everything you need to know about the Warrens.
Yeah, that's it.
Because instead of basing their investigations on science, they're basing it on Christianity. And just declaring things are demons.
Yep, and just because they have absolutely no goddamn idea what's going on, they decide to jump to their own conclusions. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And Novella also thought this was exactly what we were just basically saying, and replied with, quote, "It takes work to do solid critical thinking, to actually employ your intellectual faculties and come to a conclusion that actually reflects reality. That's what scientists do every day, and that's what skeptics advocate," end quote. They ended their investigation with another quote saying they claimed to have scientific evidence with which we could sink our investigative teeth. What we found was a very nice elderly couple, some genuinely sincere people, but absolutely no compelling evidence.
At least they were look, they were nice, okay? They baked some cookies before. They were really good.
That's literally the same thought I had. They made us cookies, but you're crazy.
Yeah.
Doesn't cover it up. So they even followed with a warning that while they did not intentionally cause harm to anyone, they did serve to reinforce the delusions and confuse the public about legitimate scientific methodology. And with everything that they just went over about the Warrens, they seem to base everything on their view of Christianity and just throw the word demon and possession around as much as they want.
Oh my God.
When I look into any paranormal case and see the names of the Warrens involved, I pretty much start to lose all credit it's attached to.
Oh, I'm sure.
To me, it's like, to some people, it's like, oh, the Warrens did it. It's got to be real. It's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. It basically removes any chance it's a real investigation. I personally believe that the Warrens are some of the biggest frauds in our nation's history. And I definitely think they're the biggest frauds in the field of paranormal research.
Oh, definitely. It sounds like according to the skeptics, it sounds like they really truly believed in what they were saying. But it's like, well, you made a lot of money off of it, so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. The books and movies and shows. That's money. Like, they were pumping out the money out of it. Their lack of using any credible attempts at research leads me to believe that this is true, and also makes me believe that the next part of this episode is the most important part, which is, I called Part 3, The Truth.
What? We can't handle
That's
that,
right.
though.
And we're going to have to handle it today.
Okay. So
people who love Amityville and love everything about it, this is the most important part to listen to, because a lot of people ignore this part. The films definitely do. The books definitely do. And this is something that I think if you like the Warrens, if you like classic horror, stuff like the 70s era of horror, this is a great thing to know, because Amityville claims it's a true story. Right. So, here we go. The book by Jay Anson, The Amityville Horror, is the first reporting of these events, but with all the spin-offs and extensions of the legend since 1975, it's pretty easy to imagine how the story has changed over the years. Depictions of events have ranged greatly from the original form, and many events in films and shows regarding the same story are just added in. So you'll see, you'll watch a new version of Amityville Horror, and things happen that weren't in the original film. And yet they put the based on a true story part in.
Yeah, there's your sign.
Yes, that's a pretty big
that's a red
clash
yeah.
Already, yeah. An important fact to know before we start this part of the episode, to go over, is that George Lutz, the guy who, claimed for the haunting, the guy who got all this stuff happened to, was a very curious and possibly very into paranormal and satanic activity before even moving into the house.
Oh, so he already had the mind for it.
Yes, and also it's important to know that the Amityville Horror is one of the biggest hoaxes in our nation's history.
Oh, yeah, well, I believe that now.
And now we're going to go into exactly why it's pretty well known amongst people who are into the paranormal that it's a hoax. Anyone you ask is a paranormal investigator, like, oh yeah, Amityville's fake. It's a pretty well known thing. But they still use that it's a true story when they make new content about it, so people, believe it again.
Yeah, so that they, buy tickets.
Exactly. So after purchasing the house for $80,000, like we mentioned earlier, the Lutzes were in severe debt. Likely even before buying the home, they were already in debt. We don't know exactly how they got approved for this home, but we do know they were in severe financial problems at the time of purchase.
Huh.
I also think the house was sold to them fully furnished because it was a murder victim and arrest, so there was no ownership of any of the items in the house except for the property.
Right.
So I think there was no, they didn't have to buy furniture, and they already had everything in the house,
Sure. That's kind of nice, though, when anyway.
Yeah. It's good for them, but it makes sense, too. They didn't have to buy them. They didn't have to spend money to furnish a house.
Yeah.
If they were in severe debt. And George likely bought the house and wanted it solely because of the murders that happened there, and wanted to sell a story to make money.
Yeah.
Another important note about this time period is just some years before, just before this happened, I think it was 1973, a very popular movie came out that was in a lot of the public's mind called The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
Yeah. You've seen The Exorcist?
Yeah, yes I have.
Okay, so does it sound green slime, flies, eyes looking through the windows? You see, it's
pretty close.
Starting to make a lot of sense. Yeah, about what happened. And also showing, this also kind of shows that George Lutz had a financial motivation for everything here.
That makes sense.
In the New York Times, it makes sense. In the New York Times article, Stephen and Roxanne Kaplan, two parapsychologists, wrote a book on this topic, and they claim that the Lutz family invented the story to deliberately defraud the public for profit. This is very likely the case, as not only is it an obvious way to recover that debt and turn a profit, but there is some glaring issues with the stories, often accounts of the events and the months after. And it's a well-known that the fact checkers at Snopes, who helped with all the articles and searching for research on the article written by the parapsychologists, that the Amityville Horror and all subsequent films in the state, in that state of everything that took place in Amityville, and all the movies, all the shows, everything.
Yeah.
Snopes has claimed, quote, that it is entirely false. So that I looked at the Snopes article about it, and I went kind of into it, and they had a lot of people who were. They interviewed a lot of people who were alive during the time, people who were neighbors, everything, saying they never heard anything, never saw anything, they never believed it the whole time as well. Like, they always, that's just bullshit. Right. The people who lived there after never had a single paranormal experience. And if you believe in that kind of thing, there was no exorcism. There was no ritual done to stop it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, nothing happened. There was no sealing away anything. And just yet, to this day, there's never been another horror encounter or haunting encounter in that house.
Why aren't people satisfied with reality? Why can't we just accept what's happening right in front of us?
Because we want to believe.
Yeah, that's it. X-Files, baby. Let's go.
Next, we have William Weber, DeFeo Jr.'s lawyer. And he stated, in an attempt to get a new trial for his client, that he and the Lutzes actually worked together to create the whole story over a few bottles of wine. Weber said that the Lutzes were reserved and quiet, but as soon as the wine was flowing, they started ranting and raving about every paranormal thing that happened. And he is even quoted as saying, there was a give and take, and towards the end, we just started creating ideas.
It's just pitching movies at that point.
Yeah, that's literally what they were doing. They were just like coming up with, like, what if this happened, this happened. He has another quote that he said that he put forth the idea that the gelatin droplets found on the carpet could even be given a sinister origin, saying, quote, if you were talking about green slime, why couldn't it have come from a demonic source, end quote.
Duh, because green slime couldn't be anything else.
No. And they described there was gelatin droplets found in the carpet of the home.
Yeah.
And that's like the green slime. It's just they were making Jell-O. That's literally what it is. It was
yeah, they were having a little party night, and they made Jell-O for the party. That's actually adorable.
And one of the kids, there was 3 kids. You know, it makes sense. You make green Jell-O when you have 3 kids. Oh, hell yeah.
I'll make Jell-O. I'm an adult, and I'll have some Jell-O.
I hate Jell-O, but you can all have it. You can be yours.
I like pudding. Do you like pudding?
I like pudding. I like pudding. We can have a fun pack. Let's get some pudding pack. Anyway, Weber said he never believed the Lutz's accounts of inexplicable happenings in the house. His final comment on the matter of whether or not the incident actually happened was simply, quote, absolutely not, because they were making a commercial venture, end quote.
Right.
Absolutely Later in the early... Yeah, absolutely not. That's coming from the lawyer of the guy who killed all this family.
Yeah.
Later in the early 2000s, DeFeo Jr. himself would be interviewed by ABC Primetime. And he would say in the interview that he made up the story of the voices in his head in a desperate attempt to get an insanity plea. So, all your base for demonic possession is now admittedly confessed to be a lie. So, it's hard to recover from that.
You're staying in prison, buddy.
Yeah, no, he wasn't trying to get out of prison. Like, he knew he was stuck at that time. So when they interviewed him, he's like, oh yeah, it's all fake.
Yeah.
That's the way he said that. Like, it was all a lie. You know, he'd already been in prison for 25 years. He wasn't getting out of prison. He had served one of his 6 sentences at that time for 25 years.
Jesus Christ. He'll never get to serve all of them, huh?
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Can't get out. So Joe Kickle, a paranormal investigator and major skeptic, who's pretty famous. I like his works. Okay. He is a professional skeptic. That's the best way to put it. He's a paranormal investigator. He wrote a lot of books as well. And his whole thing is he investigates paranormal stuff but doesn't believe in any of it. Yeah. Which is something I like. I appreciate that a lot. That's easier to me to tell me something happened if I know you believe in nothing. You don't believe in any of it.
Oh yeah, I'll be more likely to believe you if you say something amazing happened. If you're like, oh, I think it's all bullshit too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And in a lot of his investigations, he'll say stuff like, oh, there was definitely some weird noises, and I was definitely in the area alone. I don't really know what it was, but I'm not going to say it's a ghost. Like, I didn't see anything.
Sure.
I didn't feel anything. That's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
He had a quote on this subject, which is a very famous quote on Amityville, which is, quote, "The bottom line is that it was a hoax, or is, simply, at best, a matter that's not proven, and that's not very good for America's most haunted house."
That sounds like a tagline for something.
Yeah, that quote is used in a lot of things that I read about this. So it's a pretty well spread out quote that, like, I see a lot of articles and even newspaper articles and books about this quote that all the time. It's even on the cover of one of the books about Amityville.
Huh.
George Lutz, however, the man who claimed all this happened, was not just going to take all this criticism sitting down. He continued to really he passionately disagreed with all these statements. And he said it was all true, and he said it only has stayed alive as a legend this long because it's a true story. Which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
The Lord of the Rings is only popular because it's a true story, Pat.
Exactly.
Otherwise, no one would listen to it.
Yeah, and... no, yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't mean that everything that has ever been said about it is true. It certainly is not a hoax. It's real easy to call something a hoax. I wish it was. It's not. That's a quote from George Lutz.
Well, I'm convinced.
Yeah, you got me. You're right.
Me.
This is all real. You wish he wishes it was.
This really does seem like one of the greatest hoaxes of all time.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. So he's not the only one, however, who defends it. The journalist that we talked about earlier, Laura Didio, from the Psychic Sleepover event.
Yeah.
She also is against the hoax claims and backed up George in defending the stories of the house. And she has a quote saying, "One of the things that struck me about their story is that they seem genuinely frightened and genuinely moved by whatever happened to them in this house."
Well, that's unfortunately not proof, so...
No, it's not proof. And people can act. You would be surprised that almost anyone who's good at lying, for example, making all this stuff up, could be a good actor.
That's true.
So, that goes hand in hand. In 2013, we got a documentary titled My Amityville Horror, which I did watch in preparation for this, it was pretty good. And that interviewed Daniel Lutz, which is the son of Catherine Lutz and the former stepson of George Lutz. Daniel discussed the abuse he suffered at the hands of his stepfather and family patriarch George Lutz. He mentions that he was beat by him. He says that George would dabble in Satanism long before the media paid any attention to the family.
Okay.
Daniel mentioned that he had recollections of George reading from dark tomes and maintained this account throughout multiple interviews. He claims the events of Amityville did happen in some manner, but it's nothing to do with the house, but his stepfather George.
Oh, that's an interesting twist.
Yeah, so he's basically saying, Daniel Lutz, who I think he's the oldest son of the three kids, and he said in the interview that basically, yes, hauntings did happen there. In the movie, documentary kind of mentions that they're not what he said they were. Like, they would see some things, like he said, but not like everything. He made up a lot of stuff, kind of, or exaggerated a lot of stuff. But he said there was hauntings that happened there, but it was because of what his dad was doing with Satanism and stuff, or stepfather, I should say.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So Kathy's other son, Christopher Quarantino, who I guess changed his last name at some point, he would say something similar. He was the first of the children to ever speak out about this in an interview in 2002 at events about the house. And his story is a little bit different from Daniel's. He claimed that neither the book, movies, or remake have ever been accurate. And he says he was 7 years old when his mother and stepfather moved into the house at 112 Ocean Avenue. And Quarantino claims, just like Daniel, that his stepfather dabbled in the occult and amplified any paranormal event that did happen there for movie purposes. He said he did encounter a shadow person approach him once in the house, which then subsequently disappeared. But that's it, and that's all that he ever saw.
Look, I don't believe in any of their bullshit. I did see a shadow demon for a second. But other than that, it's all bullshit.
So, yeah, I mean, he is saying that, like, he was, in the book, in the movies and everything, it claims that he was present for all these crazy things happening. Right. That's what he's basically like, no, I was not. Like, I only saw one shadow person once. That's all I saw. He claimed that George would take the story as like that, like the shadow person, for example, and amplify it as much as possible to get as much money as he could.
Oh, yeah.
He called George a, quote, professional showman, end quote.
Well, it's more of a compliment than an insult, I guess. I guess he had some respect for him.
He said that George was extremely curious about everything paranormal and would chant loudly, trying to summon entities and demons from the study of the house. Huh. He claims that something evil is in that house and it might not be there anymore. Either way, it's because of his father's influence.
Yeah, no, of course.
So, both the kids said the same general thing.
Yeah.
That his dad, with their stepfather, George Lutz, was a Satanist and paranormal interested person who would try to bring evil into the house to try to make a buck. So maybe he saw The Exorcist, which is also based on true story, which will probably be another episode we'll do, because, similar to this, wink. He probably saw that and thought, like, I could do this, but it has to be real. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it has to be, something has to happen. So he tried really hard with Satanism and other paranormal events.
Just like, I'm going to open up my house to demons. I'm willing to do that. Like, just in the realm of demons are real. You're like, yeah, I want that to happen here. Let's get into it.
Only house, his whole family.
Yeah,
with 3 children
involved.
Yeah, there was a 7-year-old boy involved.
That's fucking
like,
yeah, no, he should be in jail for sure.
So he's dead now. I think he died in 2005. Right. But to add icing to the cake of what we just talked about with the Christopher Quarantino, George would sue Quarantino after that interview, making claims in the 2003, making the claims he made in 2003 in Nevada District Court for saying that they were trademark infringement and fraud relating to an Amityville horror movie planned by Lutz. So I think that says a lot too. That says a lot. The second someone speaks bad about him and his family, he was there. He's like, no, shut up, you're sued, shut up, you can't talk about that, kind of thing. So, to me, that's like the final straw for me, is when I saw he sued his own stepson for talking out about it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, at this point, if you know all this, there's basically no way you should be, like, believing this is a real ghost story.
Sure. Doesn't
make a ton of sense. It's
there's so much evidence that is against it at this point that we've gone over.
Yeah. There's the 2 major things to me is that, one, the suing, like I just said, but the other thing, people live in that house today and nothing has happened.
And they're like, it's fine. Sometimes it's a little old so it creaks, but like.
Yeah, like it's an old Dutch colonial house, and it's a really nice house, and it's been remodeled too. If you look it up, it is a nice house. Like I think it's over $1 million today. It's a very, very nice place, and no issues.
Shame that people were killed in it.
Yeah, shame that there was a whole family murdered in it. But they're not haunting it, I guess.
No,
according
it's
to
not
everyone
real.
else except for George Lutz. Yeah, it's not real. So yeah, to me, this whole event seems like a man saw The Exorcist, bought a house with a pass ripe for hauntings, tried his best to make as much money off of it as possible. And even if it's true that there was like a shadow person encounter in the house, it sounds like it's a very short one-time event and could have very easily have been a child's overactive imagination when living in a house around a stepfather who not only probably abused him, but also chants in the house at night trying to summon demons and ghosts. Like, if you're a little kid, your perception's probably going to be a little warped after being around that.
Hey, Dad, I want a midnight snack.
Arise, demons, arise!
Dad, I really want a snack.
I call forth from the 9th ring of hell you to rise, Asmodel.
Dad!
Where's the Jello?
Where's the Jello?
I also love, because I listened to a couple, I listened to 2 podcasts about the Amityville to see if there's anything like I would miss out. Maybe that'd be good to look into.
Right.
Everyone who reads from this family gives him a southern accent, but it's in New York.
So we gotta give him
Hey,
a
we just did
fucking
it
New
too.
York accent.
Hey, Dad, where's the fucking pudding?
Hey, Dad, why are you chanting to the devil? Give me some fucking pudding. Give me some Jello.
Hey, get out of hell, Asmodale, you son of a bitch. Get in here. There you go. That's the appropriate one. I think it's just because the topic is so ridiculous. It seems like some crazy, like, Southern church.
Like this
to be
happened in
involved.
Louisiana, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it fits there. But Amityville is in a nice part of it's in a nice part of Long Island, whatever that is.
Long Island, of course.
Long Island.
Long Island.
So my final notes on this subject: it was a get-rich-quick scheme,
Yep.
and it also involved the Warrens, two of the biggest frauds in America, to merely mix it in the pot to just be the perfect hoax. I don't believe anything ever happened in that house after the murders.
Right.
And I think everyone's accounts and everyone's evidence really seals the deal on that. Specifically, with the things I mentioned before. Also, the lawyer just straight up said we got drunk and made it up.
Yeah, basically.
So-
We got drunk and made it up.
Like, why would he even say that if it wasn't true? Like, there'd be no reason for him to just bash him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of them would just
Like-
probably be like, it was the greatest art of all time. It's art and you all fell for it. That's your fault.
Yeah, the kids are still alive. Christopher Correntino is alive. Daniel Lutz is alive. They had a daughter named Missy. Her name was Melissa. No one can locate her.
Oh, God, okay.
Not like that. Like, I think she changed her name and just is
good for her.
not wanting to be involved.
That's good for
Like,
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, I want to.
I think like the two siblings are in contact with her, but they don't like. She does not want to ever touch her as a 10-foot pole. She's not. She's out.
Good for
And she'd
her,
be older now too. She'd be like in her 40s, early 50s. So
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that was Amityville Horror, the biggest hoax in America for paranormal investigators.
That was fun because, like, I really didn't know much about it, so I kind of got the whole synopsis of the films and books, I guess, but
Yeah.
also like how much bullshit it is and how gullible
Yeah.
we as Americans are.
It's literally just every paranormal movie monster event put together. Demons, goo, bugs, ghosts, shadow people, everything.
It really is.
It's just
everything.
thrown together.
That's awesome.
And if a 7-year-old tells me they saw a shadow person, I don't believe him.
Oh yeah, no, 7-year-olds are dumb. They're very dumb.
Yeah.
I
You
love
were
them, but
dreaming.
they're
You were
stupid.
sleepwalking. You saw your actual shadow. One of those things happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Look, I've seen. I'm a 30-year-old, and I wake up with like sleep paralysis demons. I see some shadows and stuff, but then all of a sudden they go
same.
away. Want to know why? Because they're not real. They're fabrications in my brain. Everybody, there's no magic.
Hallucinations.
Everyone, it's not real. We live in a boring. I'm just kidding.
Or
it's not.
yeah,
Jell-O.
that's all for the Amityville episode. Remember, it's not Jello. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something today.
I did.
I hope you learned to not believe all these horror movies that say based on a true story.
I learned how to dupe America.
How to dupe America. Never trust the Warrens.
Bye.
But